So at every stage of spiritual maturity, there is a particular way to match astronomically and astrologically. So if one vibrates a certain level of maturity or conscious vibration, then a particular matchmaking system astrologically will be relevant. If one evolves, or taking in account the maturity level, which is beyond the age, well, it can be also connected to the age from the standpoint of maturity, but it applies more to a soul maturity. So depending on the level of soul maturity, one should look at the astrological matchmaking and compatibility, because it will vary. So certain stars do not match at the immature level or at the level of a low point in astrology. But once you mature, then those incompatible stars will start matching and actually even fulfilling and benefiting, because the karma that was the barrier, the karmic residue and imprint which that nakshatra exhibits will be dissolved, and then nakshatra gives the benefit, gives the strongest aspects which kind of make the impossible union as the best match or the best union. And this is the paradox. And in this day and age, the science is lost, because whatever we know of astrology and astronomy are just remnants. A lot of things are completely wrong from the standpoint of the reflection. Also the calendars, the calculation of time and space also change, and that also creates an error or some distortion of understanding astronomical cycles and the way they impact. Depending on the evolutionary level, the matchmaking system will change, and that's the main point. For example, how can one planet, let's say moon or alone or sun alone, define the matching, when we are the composition, we are the beings of emotions, of thoughts, but in reality we're actually, our authentic selves are thoughtless and emotionless. So the thoughts and emotion is the karmic residue that is represented by all the multiple planets. The sun represents consciousness. That's why the Western astrology started matchmaking through the sun sign, but the moon is the mind, which is the most relevant, because our consciousness is not so far refined, and that's what the mind usually dictates how it will interpret the reality, because the mind represents the veil. So when we matchmake, we have to look at the veil, because that will be the karmic challenge. The sun will represent the ideal matchmaking when one is refined. And even though the mind is there, but different other energies, different other currents within the consciousness, which are represented by other planets, which represent more a collective level, will impact any matchmaking, any union, because they represent different cycles, karmic cycles and movements. And so depending on that, certain unions will survive and certain unions will fall apart. Because as long as we're dealing with karmic imprints, we are in bondage of all these energies. The moment we break through these, all that matters is the authentic self that is represented by the sun alone. And the sun is not the ego. The sun represents consciousness. All the other planets comprise the individual and the collective karmic residue, or the ego, which is limitation. And so once we understand this, we refine ourselves and we break through, we realize that the authentic being does not need to match, because it's by the frequency of the soul we match. And if the frequency of the soul matches, everything else below it can come into alignment with the will of the authentic being, and with that love that authentic being emanates.